Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us here at KAKM for Monday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting tonight's show. On the satellite imagery, we had low pressure here off the southeast coast continuing to deliver a lot of clouds and moisture into that area, and then you can see all the clear skies here south of the Alaska Range into the Gulf of Alaska. A lot of sunshine from Kodiak Island again all across this area, and then the clouds here along the southeast coast. Most of the showers concentrated over the southern areas this afternoon, with lesser, more scattered showers up to the north today. And then we had showers up over the northeast interior, back to the west into the Koyukuk Valley, and southeastward into the eastern interior today. And then just a lot of clouds out here to the west with a few isolated showers near the Nulato Hills earlier today, but clouds extending all the way up across Kotzebue Sound to the western Arctic coast, and areas of fog and low clouds again up in that area. And you can also see the low pressure area lifting northward here just west of the Pribilof Islands, that pushing wind and rain in across from the eastern Aleutians this morning in across the Alaska Peninsula, and wind and rain on the increase this afternoon along the southwest coast there. Winds kicking up to about 35 miles per hour at Cape Newenham this afternoon. Cold bay scene gusts to 45 miles an hour today, and then earlier this morning as the front approached and passed Unalaska and Dutch Harbor, winds gusted to about 40 miles per hour. So pretty good system, but weakening as it continues northeast. We've got kind of a split in the wind flow here. One branch pulling that mostly off to the north, another branch here taking it eastward there across Bristol Bay into Kodiak Island. So this portion of the front's going to really be weakening over the next 12 to 24 hours as it continues eastward, again with the bulk of the moisture either heading off to the east or up to the northeast here. Otherwise, some clearing skies there over the Kobuk and lower Koyukuk Valley areas. And that was about it up there in the interior. A little bit of breaks there over the Seward Peninsula, but most of the sunshine again south and east of the Alaska Range, right on down into the Gulf of Alaska. On the chart today, there's a low center here southwest of St. Paul this morning. The frontal system passing across the Alaska Peninsula again with the rain, and both False Pass and King Cove picked up about half an inch of rain in the last 24 hours, and St. Paul had about 1/3 of an inch, with rainfall amounts lessening as you head northeast here. Just some mid and high level clouds over northeast Bristol Bay, and now beginning to increase there across Kodiak Island. There were some scattered thunderstorms over the western upper Yukon Valley, and then some isolated strikes over in the Koyukuk Valley areas, with the scattered showers here from the eastern Brooks Range right down into the east central interior areas, and then some isolated showers developing there over the Copper River Basin, but just lots of sunshine here down to the south. And that low center at the surface pulling into western Canada, and again most of the showers appeared over the central and southern parts of the southeast coast. Pretty good rainfall amounts in the last day. Both Petersburg and Elfin Cove picked up about an inch of rain, and Port Alexander had 1 3/4 inches of rain during that same time period, and contrast that with about 1/3 of an inch falling in the Juneau area. And for tonight, showers will probably end here over the northern panhandle and begin to scatter out and become less numerous down over the southern areas, but clouds holding, maybe get some clearing up here, some of this drier air working eastward there. And then the showers also scattering out, becoming mostly toward the border there, up over the northeast interior, with just some variable clouds here through the central part of the state. Low clouds and fog again, redeveloping, becoming a little more widespread up here along the Arctic coast there, with pretty light wind conditions. And then this front will bring small craft advisories and rain. Looks like small craft advisories would be about from Cape Newenham northwestward there along the southwest coast and Nunivak Island on up to St. Lawrence Island with rain, and then some showers behind that. Southwest winds 10 to 20 miles an hour over the eastern Bering Sea. That extends down to the old low center here over the western Aleutians, along with some showers. Clouds increase, thicken and lower there for Kodiak Island this evening, as well as northeast Bristol Bay, with a chance of rain on the southwest coast late tonight. And then that front passes through, may not get any rainfall at all on the east side of the island, just kind of drags through, and it really weakens again through this portion. Just a very narrow band of moisture coming eastward, and probably nothing getting past the Alaska range, just some scattered showers possible in the forecast for tomorrow. Variable mid and high level clouds coming across south central Alaska. Another pretty good day. Temperatures still forecast into the 60s to mid 70s for highs. More sunshine here for the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound. Look for some scattered thunderstorm activity there for the eastern Brooks Range, as well as the eastern interior, upper Tanana Valley areas. Risk of a thunderstorm there near Eagle. And upper Yukon Valley looking pretty clear with some scattered showers over the eastern Brooks Range, and then really not much of a change here along the eastern and central Arctic coast with some low clouds and fog. Winds from the east to northeast, and starting to gradually show a trend of increasing speeds there, but not so much tomorrow. Be tomorrow night, and a little bit stronger on the winds up there on Tuesday or on Wednesday, but not all that strong. And then some fair skies there in store for the southeast coast. All the showers now into Canada. Could be some lingering showers here along the Canadian border there, but definitely a much drier day tomorrow with some more breaks in the overcast than what you saw today down in that area. And then on Wednesday, another system develops over the southern Bering Sea late tomorrow and tomorrow night. Moves quite rapidly eastward, bringing some rain across the Alaska Peninsula and Bristol Bay during the overnight hours tomorrow night. And that moves to just almost on top of Fognak Island here for Tuesday and for Wednesday. So a better chance of rain with this system across Kodiak Island than the one that will be coming across tomorrow. And then mostly cloudy skies, scattered showers here across south central Alaska. A little more numerous up across the Kuskokwim Valley areas back out toward eastern Norton Sound. But mostly cloudy skies and scattered showers in store for the southwest coast here. Much of the southwest interior areas, showers following in behind, some westerly winds, 15 to 25 miles per hour along the Alaska Peninsula there. Lighter up over Bristol Bay, but that'll keep showers in the forecast there for the peninsula. And the trailing edge of this front could bring a little bit of light rain or drizzle there to the eastern Aleutians. Otherwise, most of the Aleutians pretty dry. This 1,006 millibar low will probably bring a chance, or probably will bring some showers into the Pribilof Islands Wednesday afternoon and evening, and then the next system trying to push eastward there into the western Bering Sea. Otherwise, here for the Copper River Basin, partly sunny, scattered thunderstorms over the mountainous terrain. Eastern Alaska range, same forecast. Could see a few isolated thunderstorms there. Otherwise, just partly to mostly sunny up over the northern interior. There's a risk of some showers or thunderstorms over the eastern Brooks Range, possibly into the Noatak Valley areas. And then again, those easterly winds, 10 to 20 miles per hour, higher gusts there up along the central and eastern Arctic coast. Still in that low cloud and fog condition, the high up there off the map, keeping the circulation about the same. So really not a lot of change there, except for an increase in the wind speeds on Wednesday over Tuesday. And it looks fair with some partly sunny skies there for the southeast coast. Definitely dry there, higher pressure right up along the coastline there. So winds will drop off from the small craft advisories you'll see tomorrow there down to something less on Wednesday. Temperatures down that way this afternoon ranged from the mid-50s to the lower 70s, 71 at Skagway, 62 at Sitka, and some rain and 60 degrees down at Klawock with 64 there at Juneau. A nice 73 today at Yakutat and 78 at Cordova. Seward had 77, and the warm spot in the state was at Valdez today with northeast winds pushing that temperature up to 79 degrees this afternoon, 72 up at Gulkana, 73 in Talkeetna, upper 60s to lower 70s across Cook Inlet and the Kenai Peninsula. Homer, though, just stuck at 59 this afternoon. Up to the north in the Tanana Valley, upper 50s to mid 60s there, both Fairbanks and Tanana coming in with 65 degrees, just 60 though over at Northway. And out to the west, the Pribilofs, lower 50s, upper 40s here over the western Aleutians, but Atka did push up to 55, and warm 63 at Unalaska, otherwise lower to mid 50s here along the Alaska Peninsula. Then it warms up. Port Heiden had a high today of 70 degrees. Same thing at King Salmon at 4 o'clock. They were 70, 71 at Iliamna. Contrast that with just 55 at Cape Newenham. And up in the interior, the upper Yukon Valley there at Fort Yukon, 63 today, 69, almost 70 there at Bettles. And then notably cooler through the Brooks Range, Anaktuvik at 52. And the Arctic coast, not too bad, mid-40s there at Barrow and over at Dead Horse, 50 degrees at Atusuk, and lower to mid-50s here into the Kotzebue Sound area with Buckland at 59. Nome had a afternoon temperature of 53 degrees, and mostly in the mid-50s here along the Yukon and Kuskokwim Delta coastline up into Norton Sound. But McGrath 65, 66 down at Bethel. Looking at lows tonight, mostly in the 40s here for the Bering Sea and the Aleutians, otherwise lower 50s, eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula up into Bristol Bay, upper 40s and 50s here through much of the interior, mostly in the 50s though, south central Alaska and the North Gulf Coast, upper 40s to mid 50s for the Panhandle, and mostly in the 40s there along the Arctic coast. And for the highs tomorrow, into the upper 60s to lower 70s here through a big portion of the central interior, so Sitna Valley into the mid 70s once again tomorrow down into northern Cook Inlet. And the Copper River Basin, not too bad either, upper 60s to lower 70s there as well. And southeast coast here warming up, drier conditions, less clouds, less showers, definitely less showers. That'll allow temperatures in some areas to rise into the lower 70s. And for the flying weather, some lingering marginal VFR here over the eastern part of the southeast coast there, and most of this stuff will be along and off the coast, and mostly VFR here along the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound again, but definitely indicating an increase in the clouds here over the Gulf of Alaska from what was seen today, where this area was all VFR, and a chance of some marginal VFR of that front, remnants of that weakening front coming across and getting the west side of Kodiak Island, but the east side should be VFR and rain-free. Marginal VFR coming in quite a ways, right up to the Alaska Range there, but staying VFR for south central Alaska. VFR conditions all the way up across the Brooks Range. Eastern Arctic coast there, marginal VFR tomorrow afternoon, starting out IFR in areas in the morning. And a lot of marginal conditions out here over the Bering Sea with mostly IFR along the southern portion of the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutians, and then some more IFR out over the central Aleutians with that frontal boundary right through here, again extending from Kodiak Island back down across the eastern Aleutians. And Anaktuvik and Adigan, both passes in the Brooks Range, will be open tomorrow with VFR. Flying conditions, Lake Clark and Merrill, possible marginal VFR on the western entrances, otherwise VFR. And for rainy, VFR both west and east, and windy north and south. VFR through the pass remaining open for Isabel, and Mentesta pass is open as well. Tanita VFR, Portage VFR, both Chilkoot and White VFR. Freezing levels 8,000 feet here over a good portion of interior Alaska, right down the southeast coast there. And then southwesterly flow, pulling some warmer air northward. You got 12,000 feet here across the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island area, 10,000 feet in over Bristol Bay. And then kind of a pretty good gradient back here, again supporting a 130 knot southwesterly jet there. And icing threats above about 8,000 feet from northeast Bristol Bay. Again, this will be kind of rotating and slipping northeastward there. So coming onshore tonight along the coast and gradually lifting northeastward and extending back out to St. Lawrence Island in toward the Bering Strait, maybe clipping the southern Seward Peninsula. And then another area of icing here of the light rime variety for the Alaska Peninsula to the eastern Aleutians, but that'll be above 12,000 feet with the high freezing levels that are going on out there currently. And the jet stream southwest, 130 knots there, right along that thermal gradient, taking a turn to the west or east across Kodiak Island, and then the wind flow more southerly out in this area, so that's going to stretch that frontal boundary apart and weaken it considerably, and just bringing a chance of rain to Kodiak Island tomorrow, and just variable clouds up along the western Alaska range. And at 3,000 feet here, very light variable winds across southern Alaska, easterlies 10 to 15 through the north central interior, southerlies 20 to 25 knots here along the west coast, and pretty light winds for the Panhandle except along Prince of Wales Island there, westerlies at about 20 knots, and then we've got some 20 to 30 knot southwesterlies out here over the Aleutians. And about the same pattern here at 3,000 feet, southwesterlies 25 to 30 knots there for the Aleutians and across the Pribilofs, dropping back to 20 knots here on the southwest coast and going southerly there across Norton Sound and the Seward Peninsula. As at 9,000 feet, 3,000 feet here, light variable winds across southern Alaska, easterlies 10 to 15 knots, strongest along the Arctic coast there, and westerlies at about 20 knots here along the central and south Panhandle, pretty light and getting quite variable as you get up toward Glacier Bay and Lynn Canal in those areas. Turbulence-wise, again with small craft advisory winds in the forecast here through some mechanical turbulence here from about Port Alexander or Sitka southward there along the west side of Prince of Wales Island. Otherwise, no significant turbulence at all here through just about all of mainland Alaska, maybe the western Seward Peninsula, the Yukon Delta coast, southwest across the Pribilofs on down into the central and western Aleutians. And after hangar flying, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary O'Connor. On behalf of the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation, thank you to Alaska Public Media for sponsoring this program. We are glad you could join us this evening, where we are happy to have Millicent Hoidal back on the program. She is going to be talking to us about a recently released safety alert from the NTSB. She is an aviation accident investigator with the National Transportation Safety Board. Welcome back, Millicent.
Thank you, Mary.
On our last show, we talked about the safety alert that was recently issued by the NTSB. It's called See and Be Seen. Your life depends on it. One of the sessions of a safety alert describes what pilots can do. Can you tell us some of the recommendations that the pilots can follow to see and be seen?
Well, having a good scan is important, and it's one of those basic flying skills that you really have to practice, or you forget about it, or you get task-oriented doing other things. So being vigilant and keeping on your scan is something that you really need to practice, and the best way that you're going to see other traffic that could pose a conflict for you.
So that's what pilots can do. What can passengers do?
Well, passengers are always looking out the window, which is one of the great things about being a passenger here in Alaska, is you can see all the beautiful scenery. But passengers should feel empowered that if they see another airplane or they see traffic or anything else that could pose a hazard to their flight, to speak up. If they see something, to say something to the pilot, to make sure that the pilot has seen this other airplane instead of just assuming that the pilot saw it.
So passengers can be very helpful, not just as passengers to keep a pilot entertained and give them somebody to talk to, but they can also be another set of eyes or several sets of eyes.
Absolutely.
So we talked about it a little bit on our last show, but one of the related accidents that was listed in the safety alert was an instructional flight. So you were a flight instructor. Do you have any tips to help students and instructors avoid mid-air collisions?
Well, I know as my time flight instructing that it is a very busy time in the airplane. It's busy for the student in that there's a whole lot of information they're trying to learn and things they're trying to accomplish, and the same for the instructor, making sure that they do all these things safely. I would suggest making sure that who's going to be looking for traffic is part of your pre-flight briefing. And then in the airplane, if someone sees traffic, to communicate that to the other pilot to make sure that you're both seeing the same traffic in the same place, to maintain that situational awareness of what's going on around you.
So if a student or a passenger saw something, but maybe it was during a critical phase of flight, or if the other person is flying or talking on the radio, it would be appropriate to point at traffic instead of just saying something?
Absolutely. There's a lot that can be communicated without a verbal communication. And I think that certainly in those critical phases of flight, the other person is going to be aware of what you're doing and cognizant of what's going on.
Okay, so with all the new avionics and the navigation equipment and even iPads that are being used in aircraft nowadays, they have some pretty amazing displays that can really challenge pilots not to focus or even fixate on equipment that's inside the airplane. Do you have any advice that would help pilots to maintain that appropriate scan time between inside and outside the airplane?
That goes back to practice and discipline. Personal electronic devices are wonderful. They can add a lot of safety features to your airplane with weather and maps and tracking where you are. But there's nothing that replaces looking outside the airplane and seeing what's in front of you. So remembering that while those things can help you, they're not there to do the flight for you.
And in talking about things that you can see, one of the recommendations in the safety alert was using lights on aircraft. Do you have a recommendation for any one type of lights over another?
There's technology has come so far with lighting just in the recent years. So there's a variety of options for many different budgets, whether it's replacing the type of bulbs or replacing the entire light system in your airplane or just a new landing light. There's lots of different options for what may work for each pilot, but really making sure that they're on, using everything that you can to your ability for not only for you to see, but for people to see you.
And if people, passengers or pilots, would like to find out more about seeing and being seen, where could they go?
There's a lot of training out there available. See and Avoid is a great website, and like I said, the NTSB has lots of safety alerts available, and AOPA, there's a vast amount of education available to pilots.
Great. Thank you so much, Millicent. It's been a real pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, Mary.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy this program, I encourage you to become a member of the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation. We appreciate your support, and we appreciate you tuning in to Hangar Flying. Until next time, thank you for your support, and fly safely.
Welcome back. Well, this is the state of the sea ice today. They're hugging in close to the central and eastern Arctic coast, but then you can see pulled back quite a bit here on the west side. And southerly flow going on along the ice edge currently will become westerly on Wednesday, or actually it will become easterly on Wednesday, and then east-northeast flow will persist for the remainder of the week. So looking for the ice edge to pull back or drop west-southwest about 15 nautical miles through Saturday. And for the coast here, looks like small craft advisories here for the central and south coast. Westerlies 20 knots there for the north coast. So pretty uniform wind pattern here along the outer coastline. Southerlies about 10 knots there for Stevens Passage and Lynn Canal. Northwest 15 for Clarence Strait. And a little bit lighter winds there for the Strait on Wednesday, still northwesterlies. And then Lynn Canal picking up from the south to 25 knots for small craft advisories there Wednesday afternoon. Otherwise, south to southeast winds of 15 knots for the north coast, westerlies at 20 knots for the south coast. And for Prince William Sound, light variable winds tomorrow in the forecast, and south to southwest at 10 for Cook Inlet. Got westerly winds up to 20 knots here for the central Gulf Coast, otherwise west 15 for the western side there. And southwesterlies 15 to 20 knots here from the Barren Islands across Kodiak Island. And the outlook for Wednesday, big increase in the winds here. Westerlies 30 knots, seas building to 11 feet here in the zone there along the east side of Kodiak Island. Shelikof Strait, southwesterlies at 20 knots with southwest 20 for Kamishak Bay. Mostly southerly winds at 15 there for the North Gulf Coast. And winds staying light and for the most part on the variable side for Prince William Sound. And for the Alaska Peninsula on the north side here, southwesterlies 10 to 15 knots. They're lightest near Bristol Bay, but small craft advisories here on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula with those seas running 8 to 10 feet. And for the Wednesday forecast, small craft advisories, the whole area here, southwest 25 for Bristol Bay, southwest 25 to 30 knots there for for the peninsula, and then from about Chignik on up to Sitkinak, same thing, southwest 30. Seas running anywhere from 6 to 8 feet here on the Bering side to 11 to 12 feet on the Pacific side. For the eastern Aleutians tomorrow, southwest winds 15 to 20 knots with seas 5 to 11 feet. Small craft advisories here in the central Aleutians, and winds dropping down to 15 knots for that western marine zone. And then those go back to small craft advisory, southwesterlies 25 knots out here over the western Aleutians. The Adak and Atka areas there, westerlies at 25 knots, and then westerlies at 25 to 30 knots here across the Fox Islands with seas 9 to 11 feet. And up along the southwest coast there, south to southwest winds at 15 knots. Easterlies 25 knots until that front lifts north of St. Lawrence Island tomorrow, becoming light and variable over the northern Bering Sea. And then kind of a variable wind pattern here coming up in that area on Wednesday, but westerlies at 20 knots. South of Nunivak Island, small craft advisories for the Pribilofs in the forecast with 8-foot seas. For the Arctic coast, easterly winds in most areas, especially from the central coast here all the way over to Demarcation Point at 15 knots. And then easterlies from Wales to Cape Thompson there at about 15 knots, and northeast from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort. And then for Wednesday, northwesterlies pretty light there for the Kotzebue Sound area. What easterlies on the increase here. In fact, the winds tend to pick up all areas here on Wednesday from the east, 20 to 25 knots, more of a northeast direction here on the western coast. And for tonight, showers decreasing, and eventually the clouds will follow suit, but still some lingering showers here over the northern areas over the southern areas later tonight. Stays fair along the North Gulf Coast. Look for a general increase in the cloud cover, though, especially down across Kodiak Island, where this front will bring a chance of rain to the southwest coast late tonight. Small craft advisory winds here for the southwest coast and up to St. Lawrence Island, with rain spreading northward across Gamble and Savunga and along the southwest coast. More scattered shower conditions following in behind, with southwest winds 10 to 20, maybe 25 miles an hour across the southeast Bering Sea. Well, this front weakens considerably, just a narrow band of light rain or showers there associated with it. Look for some showers to get triggered there over the western Alaska range, just a gradual increase in the clouds over south central Alaska.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.